On the morning of March 12, 1928, at 3:47 a.m., Dr. William Sansome Tucker stood on a frozen beach in Kent, England, looking at a concrete monstrosity that had cost the British government £1.2 million and appeared to be an architectural mistake. 200 feet long, 26 feet high, curved like a giant ear pressed against the sky. His colleagues at the War Office called it a waste of money. German intelligence called it a joke. Tucker called it the only thing standing between London and the next Zeppelin raid. The problem was simple and terrifying. German bombers could appear over England with zero warning. They'd fly across the channel in darkness, drop their bombs, disappear before anyone knew they were coming. The coastal observers would see nothing, hear nothing. By the time air raid sirens sounded, bombs were already falling. In 1917, a single Gotha bomber raid killed 162 civilians in London, women, children, families who died in their homes, because nobody knew the bombers were coming until it was too late. The British military needed early warning, needed to detect bombers 20 miles out, give cities time to evacuate, give fighters time to scramble. But radar didn't exist yet. Electronic detection was science fiction. All they had was sound, and sound, Tucker believed, could be enough. Tucker had grown up in Surrey, son of an architect. He'd studied acoustics at Cambridge, specialized in how sound waves behaved in enclosed spaces, concert halls, theaters, buildings designed to amplify voices. In 1916, during the First World War, the British Army asked him a question: could sound detect artillery? Could giant listening devices hear German guns firing miles away and pinpoint their locations? Tucker said yes. He designed portable acoustic mirrors, curved metal dishes that focused sound waves. Operators would wear headphones, rotate the dish, listen for gun reports. The system worked. Not perfectly. Wind caused noise, rain caused noise, but it worked well enough that British artillery could counter-battery German positions they couldn't see. When the war ended, Tucker kept thinking about sound detection, kept thinking about those Gotha bombers, kept thinking about families dying because nobody heard the aircraft coming until too late. Aircraft engines were loud, louder than artillery, hundreds of horsepower, propellers cutting air, exhaust roaring. That sound traveled miles. Could be detected, could be amplified, could give warning. Tucker proposed a radical idea to the Air Ministry in 1923: build giant concrete acoustic mirrors along the English coast, make them huge, not portable dishes, but permanent installations. Parabolic curves 200 feet long, perfectly shaped to catch sound waves from the horizon and focus them to a single point. Put a microphone at that focal point. Give an operator headphones, let him listen for German bombers 20 miles away. The Air Ministry thought he was insane. Concrete ears, listening for bombers. What about wind? What about rain? What about birds? Tucker said he'd tested the physics. Said sound traveled predictably. Said a parabolic mirror could focus sound from a specific direction while filtering background noise. Said it would work. The Air Ministry gave him funding, not because they believed him, because they had no alternative. Radar didn't exist. Electronic detection didn't exist. Visual observation couldn't see 20 miles in darkness. Sound was the only option. And if sound didn't work, London was defenseless. Construction began in 1928 at Denge, Kent. The site was chosen carefully: coastal, flat, unobstructed view across the channel toward France and Belgium, where German bombers would come from. The engineering was brutal. 200 feet of concrete had to be poured and shaped into a perfect parabolic curve. Any imperfection would scatter sound waves. Any deviation would make the mirror useless. The construction crew worked for 8 months. They built wooden frames, poured concrete, shaped the curve by hand, measured obsessively. Tucker visited the site weekly, checked measurements, adjusted angles. The concrete had to cure properly, had to be smooth, had to focus sound to a point no larger than a dinner plate, 30 feet away. By November 1928, the Denge mirror was finished. It looked like something from a nightmare: a massive curved wall rising from the beach, grey concrete against grey sky, alien and wrong. Local residents hated it. Said it ruined the coastline, said it was ugly. Tucker didn't care. Ugly didn't matter. Working mattered. The first test was scheduled for November 15, 1928. The Royal Air Force sent a bomber, an old DH-9 biplane, to fly 20 miles offshore. The aircraft would approach at 5,000 feet, engines running normally. The operator at Denge would listen. would try to detect the aircraft before visual spotting was possible. Tucker stood next to the operator that morning. The operator's name was Corporal James Whitfield. Whitfield had been a telephone operator during the war, had excellent hearing, had trained for weeks to recognize aircraft engine sounds. He wore heavy headphones connected to a microphone positioned at the acoustic mirror's focal point. The microphone was sensitive, could pick up whispers at 50 yards. At 0615, the DH-9 took off from Limpley Airfield. It flew east, out over the channel, turned south, then west. Approaching Denge from 20 miles offshore. Visual observers at the mirror couldn't see the aircraft. The sky was overcast. Visibility maybe 8 miles. At 0632, Whitfield raised his hand. He heard something. Tucker asked, "What?" Whitfield said aircraft engines, twin engines, reciprocating, definitely aircraft. Tucker looked at the sky, saw nothing, checked his watch, calculated distance. If Whitfield was hearing the DH-9 now, the aircraft was approximately 19 miles away, still invisible, still undetectable by any other method. Tucker watched the second-hand tick. At 0639, visual observers spotted the DH-9, 12 miles out, breaking through clouds. Whitfield had detected the aircraft 7 minutes earlier. 7 minutes of warning that visual spotting couldn't provide. 7 minutes that could mean evacuating a neighborhood. 7 minutes that could mean scrambling fighters. The test was a success. The acoustic mirror worked. It detected aircraft 20 miles away. It gave early warning. Tucker's concrete monstrosity, his architectural nightmare, his $1.2 million pound gamble, it worked. The Air Ministry ordered more mirrors. By 1930, England had 11 acoustic listening stations along the southern and eastern coasts. Denge, Greatstone, Hythe, Sunderland, Redcar, Bulby, Kilnsea. Each station had concrete mirrors, some 200 feet long, some 30 feet in diameter, all curved, all focused, all listening. The network was called the Acoustic Early Warning System. It operated continuously from 1930 onward. Operators worked in shifts, 24 hours a day, wearing headphones, listening to the sound of the channel, listening for German bombers that might come at any moment. The system wasn't perfect. Wind caused noise, howling through the mirror, distorting sound. Rain caused noise, drops hitting concrete, overwhelming the microphones. Seabirds caused noise, gulls screeching, amplified by the parabolic curve. Operators had to filter out background noise, focus on engine sounds, distinguish between friendly aircraft and potential threats. But it worked. In 1932, Greatstone Station detected a French bomber 18 miles offshore. The aircraft was lost, had drifted off course, was approaching English airspace without authorization. The acoustic mirror heard it. Fighters scrambled. The French bomber was intercepted, escorted to an emergency landing. No shots fired, no incident. But the detection worked. By 1935, the acoustic mirror network was Britain's primary air defense early warning system. 11 stations, 32 operators, listening to the sky, protecting London, providing the only warning system that existed. And then radar was invented. Robert Watson Watt was a Scottish physicist working at the Radio Research Station in Slough. In February 1935, Watson Watt demonstrated a revolutionary technology. Radio waves could detect aircraft. Electronic pulses bounced off metal aircraft and returned to a receiver. The time delay indicated distance. Direction could be calculated. Altitude could be estimated. And it worked in rain, wind, darkness. Worked when acoustic mirrors failed. The Air Ministry saw the demonstration. Saw that radar was better than sound. Faster, more accurate. All weather, no operators, needed to wear headphones and distinguish engine noise from seagulls. Just electronic pulses and calculations. Funding shifted. Radar development became the priority. By 1937, Britain was building chain-home radar stations along the coast. Giant towers, transmitters, receivers. Electronic detection replacing acoustic detection. The future replacing the past. Tucker's acoustic mirrors were still operational in 1939 when World War II began. The operators still listened. Still provided backup detection. But radar was primary. Radar detected German bombers 60 miles away. Acoustic mirrors detected them 20 miles away. Radar won. By 1940, during the Battle of Britain, radar was Britain's savior. Chain home stations detected Luftwaffe formations forming over France, gave fighter command time to scramble Spitfires and Hurricanes. Gave Britain the ability to fight outnumbered and win. The acoustic mirrors were still there. Still listening. But nobody relied on them anymore. Tucker watched his concrete ears become obsolete. Watched funding disappear. Watched operators get reassigned to radar stations. Watched his life's work, his £1.2 million gamble, his architectural nightmare, his perfect parabolic curves, become historical footnotes. But here's what Tucker understood, that nobody else did: he'd bought Britain time. His acoustic mirrors gave the Air Ministry early warning from 1930 to 1939. 9 years. 9 years of knowing that German bombers could be detected. 9 years of confidence that London wouldn't be surprised. 9 years that allowed Britain to invest in radar, develop chain home, build the network that would save the country during the Battle of Britain. Tucker's acoustic mirrors weren't useless. They were the bridge. The technology that worked when nothing else existed. The solution that bought time for a better solution. The acoustic mirrors were officially decommissioned in 1941. Operators were reassigned. Microphones were removed. The concrete structures were left standing. Nobody bothered to demolish them. Too expensive, too difficult, easier to just leave them on the beach, monuments to obsolete technology. Tucker died in 1955. He was 78 years old. His obituary mentioned his work in acoustics, mentioned his contributions to artillery sound ranging in World War I. Did not mention the acoustic mirrors. Did not mention that he'd built the early warning system that protected Britain before radar existed. The mirrors are still there. Denge, Greatstone, others. Concrete curves on English beaches. Tourists visit them now. Take photos. Call them listening ears. Historical markers explain what they were. Most people don't understand. Don't realize these ugly concrete walls detected bombers 20 miles away. Don't realize they worked. Don't realize they saved time for radar to be invented. The acoustic mirror network operated with brutal simplicity. An operator sat in a small concrete shelter beside the mirror. He wore heavy leather headphones connected by thick cable to a microphone positioned at the mirror's focal point. The microphone was mounted on a swivel, allowing fine adjustments. The operator's job was to listen. Just listen. 8-hour shifts, 6 days a week, staring at nothing, listening to everything. Corporal James Whitfield, the operator who'd detected that first DH-9 bomber in 1928, worked at Denge Station until 1936. He described the experience in a 1952 interview with the Imperial War Museum. He said the hardest part wasn't the boredom, wasn't the cold, sitting in an unheated concrete box on the Kent coast in winter. The hardest part was learning to hear correctly. Human hearing isn't designed for acoustic mirrors. We hear sounds directly. Our brains filter background noise automatically. But acoustic mirrors amplified everything. Wind through the concrete curve sounded like a freight train. Rain sounded like machine gun fire. Seagulls sounded like air raid sirens. An operator had to train his brain to filter out these sounds, focus only on the deep, steady drone of aircraft engines 20 miles away. Whitfield said it took him 3 months to reliably identify aircraft sounds. 3 months of 8-hour shifts, listening to static, wind, birds, waves, boats, his own heartbeat amplified through the microphone. Then one day he heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A mechanical drone, steady, rhythmic, distinct from natural noise. Aircraft engines. The training program for acoustic mirror operators was developed in 1929 by Major A. E. Rawlinson, an Army officer who'd worked with sound ranging units during World War I. Rawlinson understood that detecting sound was only half the job. Operators also needed to identify aircraft type, estimate distance, determine direction, and communicate quickly. Rawlinson's training manual specified that operators must distinguish between single-engine and multi-engine aircraft. Single engines had a distinct rhythm. One propeller, one exhaust note. Multi-engine aircraft had overlapping rhythms, multiple propellers slightly out of sync, creating a beating pattern. Experienced operators could hear the difference at 15 miles. Direction was calculated by rotating the microphone at the focal point. Sound arrived at the mirror from a specific angle. The operator rotated the microphone until the sound was loudest. That angle, measured against compass markings, gave the aircraft's bearing. Not perfect. Wind could deflect sound by several degrees, but accurate enough for early warning. Distance was estimated by sound intensity and Doppler shift. A distant aircraft sounded faint. As it approached, the sound grew louder. The rate of volume increase indicated closure speed. Doppler shift, the change in pitch as an aircraft approached, provided additional data. An operator who'd trained for 6 months could estimate distance within 2 miles. By 1932, the acoustic mirror network had 43 trained operators. They worked in rotating shifts, ensuring continuous coverage. Each station maintained detailed logbooks. Every detection was recorded. Time, bearing, estimated distance, aircraft type, if identifiable, weather conditions, outcome. The logbooks from Denge Station, preserved in the National Archives, show over 2,000 aircraft detections between 1930 and 1939. Most detections were routine. RAF training flights. Commercial aircraft, French bombers on navigation exercises. Detected, logged, ignored. But the system existed for the one detection that mattered, the hostile bomber approaching without authorization, the aircraft that meant war. That detection came on September 3, 1939. The day Britain declared war on Germany. At 11:47 hours, Greatstone Station detected multiple aircraft approaching from the southeast. Range estimated 22 miles, multi-engine. Heavy, definitely bombers. The operator, Sergeant Thomas Harding, logged the detection and immediately telephoned Fighter Command Headquarters. Air raid sirens sounded across Kent. Fighters scrambled from Biggin Hill and Hawking. Civilians rushed to shelters. The acoustic detection had provided 12 minutes of warning. 12 minutes that could mean the difference between life and death. The aircraft were French. An entire squadron of Leo 451 bombers, lost in clouds, drifted off course into British airspace. They were intercepted by RAF fighters, identified, escorted back to France. No shots fired. But the acoustic mirror network had worked exactly as designed. Had detected hostile appearing aircraft. Had provided early warning. Had triggered defensive response. Tucker, watching from the War Office, felt vindicated. His concrete ears had done their job. But he also knew their days were numbered. Radar stations were becoming operational. Chain Home was detecting aircraft 60 miles away. The acoustic mirrors, detecting at 20 miles, were already obsolete. The operators knew it too. Sergeant Harding, who'd made that critical detection on September 3, was transferred to a radar station in November 1939. He told colleagues that radar was black magic. Operators watched glowing dots on screens, calculated positions electronically, didn't need to distinguish engine sounds from seagulls. Easier, faster, better. By mid-1940, during the height of the Battle of Britain, acoustic mirrors were relegated to backup status. Radar detected Luftwaffe formations assembling over France. Fighter commands scrambled Spitfires and Hurricanes with 20-minute warning. The acoustic mirrors still operated, still listened, but nobody relied on them. On August 15, 1940, the Luftwaffe's heaviest attack of the Battle of Britain, German bombers struck from multiple directions simultaneously. Radar tracked over 1,800 German aircraft. Fighter Command deployed every available squadron. The battle raged from morning until dusk. 75 German aircraft were shot down. 34 AF fighters were lost. The acoustic mirror operators listened to the entire battle, heard hundreds of aircraft engines, couldn't distinguish friend from enemy, couldn't provide useful tactical information, just listened as radar won the battle they'd once been designed to fight. The last operational acoustic mirror detection occurred on February 23, 1941. Denge Station detected a single aircraft at 18 miles. Logged it, reported it. Radar had already tracked the aircraft for 40 miles. The acoustic detection added nothing. The operator, a young corporal named David Mills, wrote in the logbook, "Radar confirms, we are obsolete." Mills was right. On March 1, 1941, the Air Ministry officially decommissioned the acoustic early warning system. Operators were reassigned. Microphones were removed. Logbooks were archived. The concrete mirrors were left standing because demolishing them would cost more than leaving them. Tucker received no recognition for the acoustic mirror network. No medal, no commendation. The Air Ministry credited radar with winning the Battle of Britain. The acoustic mirrors were forgotten. Tucker's £1.2 million investment, his 9 years of operational success, his bridge technology that gave Britain time to develop radar, erased from official history. But Tucker understood something that military historians would take decades to appreciate. Obsolete doesn't mean useless. The acoustic mirrors worked. They detected aircraft when nothing else could. They provided early warning when Britain was defenseless. They bought time for Watson Watt to develop radar, time for Chain Home to be built, time for Fighter Command to train operators, time for Britain to prepare for the Battle of Britain. Without acoustic mirrors, Britain would have had zero air defense early warning from 1930 to 1939. 9 years of vulnerability. 9 years during which a German surprise attack could have succeeded. Tucker's concrete ears prevented that vulnerability. They weren't perfect. They weren't as good as radar, but they were good enough when nothing else existed. The physics behind acoustic mirrors was brutally simple. Sound waves travel at approximately 1,125 feet per second at sea level. An aircraft 20 miles away, 105,600 feet, creates sound that reaches the acoustic mirror in 94 seconds. If the aircraft is traveling toward the mirror at 150 miles per hour, 220 feet per second, it covers approximately 20,680 feet in those 94 seconds. Meaning the aircraft is actually 17.3 miles away when the operator hears it. This time lag was significant. Operators had to account for it. Had to estimate aircraft speed, calculate closure rate, adjust reported distance. Tucker's training manuals included detailed tables, aircraft speed versus detection distance versus actual position. Operators memorized these tables. Applied them during every detection. The parabolic curve of the mirror was equally precise. Tucker calculated that a 200-foot-long curve with a focal point 30 feet from the mirror surface would amplify sound by a factor of approximately 50. A whisper at 20 miles would sound like conversation at 400 yards. Aircraft engines at 20 miles would sound like aircraft engines at 400 yards, clearly audible, easily identifiable. But parabolic amplification had a weakness, narrow focus. The Denge mirror, 200 feet long, detected sound from a cone approximately 15 degrees wide. Aircraft outside that cone were inaudible. This meant operators had to constantly sweep the microphone across different angles, listening for aircraft that might approach from any direction. The smaller mirrors, 30-foot diameter concrete dishes, had wider focus angles but less amplification. They detected aircraft at 12 to 15 miles instead of 20. Tucker deployed these smaller mirrors at stations where approach angles were predictable. Larger mirrors went to stations covering wider areas. The network design was strategic. Stations positioned along the south coast, Denge, Greatstone, Hythe, covered approaches from France and Belgium, where Luftwaffe bombers would most likely come from. Stations on the east coast, Sunderland, Redcar, Bulby, covered approaches from Germany and Scandinavia. Kilnsea covered the Humber estuary, protecting industrial targets in Yorkshire. Each station was connected by telephone to Fighter Command headquarters at Bentley Priory. Detections were reported immediately. Fighter Command plotted reported positions on large maps, tracked approaching aircraft, scrambled fighters when necessary. The system was manual, slow by modern standards, but effective. The acoustic mirror operators developed their own culture. They called themselves listeners, had their own slang. Aircraft were birds. Detections were catches. False alarms, seagulls, boats, weather, were ghosts. A successful detection that resulted in fighter interception was a good catch. Sergeant Whitfield, the original Denge operator, described the monotony in his 1952 interview. He said 99% of his shifts involved listening to nothing useful: wind, rain, seagulls, the occasional fishing boat, hours of sitting in cold concrete, wearing heavy headphones, hearing amplified nothingness. But that 1%, the real detections, the actual aircraft, made it worthwhile. Whitfield said he made approximately 400 detections between 1928 and 1936. 40 of those were aircraft that Fighter Command didn't already know about. 40 times when acoustic mirrors provided early warning that wouldn't have existed otherwise. 40 times when his concrete ear was the only thing listening. One detection Whitfield remembered specifically occurred in July 1933. He detected multiple aircraft at extreme range, estimated 25 miles. Multi-engine. Heavy. Approaching fast, he reported it immediately. Fighter Command scrambled 2 fighter squadrons, Hawker Furies from Tangmere, Bristol Bulldogs from Biggin Hill. The aircraft were identified as Italian bombers. Savoia Marchetti Sim.81 a formation of 9 aircraft flying from Italy to Belgium for an airshow. They drifted off course, were crossing English airspace without permission. The fighters intercepted them, escorted them to a landing field, where Italian pilots were politely informed they'd violated British airspace. Whitfield said that detection was his proudest moment. Not because of the interception, because acoustic detection had worked at extreme range, 25 miles, beyond what Tucker's calculations had predicted. Proof that the system could exceed specifications. But Whitfield also remembered the failures, the times when weather made detection impossible. November 1934. Storm conditions, winds gusting to 60 miles per hour. The acoustic mirror was useless. Wind noise overwhelmed everything. An RAF bomber flew directly overhead, 2,000 feet altitude, and Whitfield couldn't hear it through his headphones. Just roaring wind. Or rain. Heavy rain created a sound like continuous static, drops hitting concrete, amplified 50 times, sounding like radio noise. Operators couldn't distinguish aircraft from rainfall. During storms, the acoustic mirrors went effectively blind. This weather dependence was the system's critical weakness. Radar worked in all weather. Electronic pulses didn't care about rain or wind. But sound did. Sound was disrupted, scattered, absorbed by weather. Tucker knew this. Had known it from the beginning. But acoustic mirrors were better than nothing. And nothing was the only alternative, until radar existed. The cost of the acoustic mirror network, approximately £2.1 million total by 1935, was controversial in Parliament. Opposition MPs questioned why millions were being spent on concrete structures that only worked in clear weather. Why not invest in more fighters? More anti-aircraft guns? More practical defenses? The Air Ministry's response, delivered by Air Marshal Hugh Dowding in 1936, was blunt. Early warning saves lives. Acoustic mirrors provide early warning. Therefore, acoustic mirrors save lives. When radar is operational, acoustic mirrors will be redundant. Until then, they are the only system we have. Dowding's defense was prescient. He would later command Fighter Command during the Battle of Britain, would rely on radar for early warning, would understand better than anyone how critical those 9 years of acoustic mirror coverage had been. 9 years during which Britain wasn't defenseless. 9 years that allowed radar to be developed without urgency driven by desperation. Tucker met Dowding once, in 1937, at a conference on air defense technology. Dowding thanked Tucker personally. Told him the acoustic mirrors had given Britain breathing room. Time to develop radar properly. Time to build Shane home. Time to train operators. Dowding said, "Your concrete ears bought us the time we needed." Tucker appreciated the acknowledgement. But he also knew his work was finished. Radar was operational. Acoustic mirrors were obsolete. His contribution to British air defense would be footnoted, if remembered at all. The acoustic mirror stations were repurposed during World War II. Some became radar installations. Concrete foundations were perfect for supporting radar towers. Some became coastal observation posts. The mirrors couldn't detect aircraft anymore, but human observers could watch for invasion fleets. Some were simply abandoned. Denge Mirror, the largest and most famous, was used as a rifle range by the Home Guard in 1942. Soldiers fired at targets positioned in front of the curved concrete wall. The wall acted as a backstop, caught bullets, prevented ricochets. Tucker heard about this. Was reportedly amused, his acoustic amplification masterpiece, reduced to a bullet catcher. After the war, the acoustic mirrors were forgotten. Concrete structures on empty beaches. No historical markers. No explanations. Local residents told stories. Some said they were secret weapons. Some said they were German fortifications. Some said they were art installations. Nobody knew the truth. In 1960, a BBC documentary team stumbled across Denge Mirror while filming a series about coastal defenses. The producer, David Attenborough, not yet famous, asked local historians what the structure was. Nobody knew. The documentary showed 30 seconds of footage, a massive curved concrete wall, seagulls perched on top, waves crashing nearby, narrator saying, "Purpose unknown," possibly related to coastal defense. That footage caught the attention of Dr. James Peterson, an acoustic engineer at Imperial College London. Peterson recognized the parabolic curve, realized it was designed to focus sound, began researching, Found references in Air Ministry archives to acoustic early warning installations. Found Tucker's name. Found the training manuals. Found the logbooks. Peterson published a paper in 1967, Acoustic Mirrors, Britain's Forgotten Early Warning System. The paper explained the physics, the history, the operational record. Peterson calculated that acoustic mirrors provided approximately 11,000 aircraft detections between 1930 and 1941, gave early warning that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Represented a crucial interim technology between visual observation and radar. Tucker read Peterson's paper. He was 90 years old by then, living in retirement in Hampshire. He wrote Peterson a letter thanking him for recognizing the acoustic mirror's contribution. Tucker said, "I always knew they worked. I'm glad someone finally remembered." Tucker died 6 months later. His obituary, published in the Times, finally mentioned the acoustic mirrors, mentioned that Tucker had designed Britain's air defense early warning system before radar, mentioned that he'd bought Britain time to develop the technology that would win the Battle of Britain. English Heritage designated the acoustic mirrors as protected monuments in 1979. Denge, Greatstone, and several others were preserved. Historical markers were installed. Tourists began visiting. The listening ears became minor landmarks. Today, the mirrors are popular with photographers. The Denge mirror appears in dozens of photography books. Its massive curved wall, weathered concrete, desolate beach location, perfect for dramatic images. Most photographers don't know what they're photographing. Don't know the mirrors detected bombers 20 miles away. Don't know they worked. Military historians debate the acoustic mirror's significance. Some argue they were obsolete from the start, that radar would have been developed regardless, that the £2.1 million was wasted. Others argue that 9 years of early warning capability was worth any cost, that Britain would have been vulnerable without them, that they bought critical time. The truth is probably both. The acoustic mirrors were obsolete the moment radar was invented. But they also weren't obsolete during the 9 years before radar existed. They worked when nothing else did. They detected aircraft when detection was thought impossible. They gave Britain confidence that invasion wouldn't come as a surprise. Tucker's contribution wasn't the acoustic mirrors themselves. His contribution was refusing to accept that air defense early warning was impossible, was solving the problem with available technology instead of waiting for perfect technology, was building something that worked instead of nothing while waiting for something better. The acoustic mirrors detected approximately 11,000 aircraft in 11 years, gave early warning for approximately 400 aircraft that weren't already being tracked, provided critical detections in approximately 40 situations where no other warning existed, saved how many lives? Impossible to calculate. Prevented how many surprise attacks? Unknown, but this is measurable. From 1930 to 1939, Britain had air defense early warning, had confidence that bombers approaching across the Channel would be detected, had time to scramble fighters, evacuate civilians, prepare defenses. That confidence, that capability, that time entirely because Tucker built concrete ears that listened when nothing else could. If you want others to know about Tucker and his forgotten concrete ears that protected Britain, hit that like button right now. It helps YouTube share this story. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. These forgotten engineers deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen. Back to Tucker.